In a world where algorithms decide what we watch, what we buy, and even what we believe, there is a quiet crisis unfolding behind every glowing screen and every instant recommendation. Artificial intelligence has raced ahead of us, dazzling the world with its ability to write poetry, generate lifelike images, and predict human behavior with unsettling accuracy. But beneath that brilliance lies a fragile foundation, one that most organizations are only beginning to understand. The future of artificial intelligence does not hinge on better models or more powerful chips. It hinges on something far less glamorous. It hinges on data operations, on the disciplined, relentless practice of DataOps, and on whether we can solve the greatest bottleneck the AI revolution has ever known. The problem is hiding in plain sight. Every day, organizations pour millions of dollars into cutting-edge AI initiatives. Yet more than 60% of these projects are projected to fail to deliver any meaningful business value. The reason is not a shortage of data scientists, not a lack of ambition, not even a failure of imagination. The reason is that the data feeding these intelligence systems is simply not ready. For decades, enterprises built their data platforms to serve a gentler purpose. Dashboards, weekly reports, historical analysis. These workloads were forgiving. A missing value here, a stale record there, a slight inconsistency in how revenue was calculated across departments, none of it was catastrophic. The business could tolerate imperfection because human analysts stood between the data and the decision, applying judgment, correcting errors, and interpreting ambiguity. But artificial intelligence does not tolerate imperfection. When a machine learning model ingests data that is even slightly wrong, it does not pause to question it. It amplifies the error, entrenches the bias, and produces outcomes that grow more distorted with every iteration. The arrival of AI has not created new data problems. It has exposed the weaknesses that were always there, turning minor cracks into structural failures. This is where DataOps enters the picture. Not as a buzzword, not as another tool to purchase, but as a fundamental rethinking of how organizations treat their most valuable asset. DataOps applies the principles of DevOps to the data lifecycle, but that comparison only scratches the surface. It is a philosophy that insists on automation over manual heroics, on continuous testing over occasional spot checks, on observable systems over black box pipelines. In an AI-driven organization, DataOps becomes the immune system, constantly monitoring, constantly validating, and constantly ensuring that the data flowing into models is fit for the purpose it is meant to serve. And as we look toward the next few years, that immune system is about to evolve into something far more sophisticated. The most profound shift on the horizon is the emergence of the autonomous data steward. Today, when a data pipeline breaks at 2 in the morning, a human engineer is pulled from sleep to diagnose the failure, trace the root cause, and apply a fix. This model cannot survive the scale that AI demands. In the very near future, intelligent agents will patrol the data landscape continuously, not just looking for null values or schema violations, but understanding context in ways that static rules never could. Imagine a streaming platform serving 30 million concurrent viewers during a global sporting event. A sudden spike in viewership for a particular genre might look like an anomaly to a traditional monitoring system, but an AI-powered steward understands that a breaking news event has just occurred. It knows the pattern is legitimate. It does not wake the engineer. It adapts, it learns, and it keeps the data flowing. This is not science fiction. The building blocks are being assembled right now, and the organizations that embrace this human-AI collaboration model are already seeing tenfold improvements in data processing speed and accuracy. The role of the data professional is being rewritten in real time. The traditional data ops engineer, buried in tickets, manually moving data from source to destination, reacting to the latest urgent request from a product manager who needs a new dashboard by tomorrow, is giving way to a new archetype. Some call it the data choreographer. This person does not spend their days writing boilerplate extraction code or fixing broken schemas. Instead, they set the policies, define the guardrails, and handle the exceptions that truly require human intuition. The routine operations that consume 80% of a data team's time are increasingly handled by AI agents that can read API documentation, suggest schemas, generate ingestion code, and deploy it to a sandbox environment in minutes. The human shifts from writer to reviewer, from operator to architect. This is not about replacing people. It is about liberating them to do the work that actually matters. Yet automation alone is not enough. The next frontier is governance that moves at the speed of AI. For years, governance has been the department of no. The slow, bureaucratic process of reviews and approvals that frustrated everyone who wanted to move fast. In the AI era, that model collapses completely. You cannot have a committee meeting every time a model needs fresh data. The organizations that are solving this problem are embedding governance directly into the pipeline itself, a practice that some are now calling data GovOps. Policy becomes code. Compliance checks happen automatically, in real time, as data moves. If a dataset contains personally identifiable information, the pipeline masks it before it ever reaches a model. If a regulatory requirement changes, the policy is updated once and enforced everywhere instantly. Governance becomes invisible when it is working, and invaluable when it is absent. This convergence of speed and control is not a compromise. It is the only way to scale AI responsibly. The technical foundations are shifting beneath our feet as well. For years, data pipelines were built for batch processing, for the comfortable rhythm of nightly loads and morning reports. But AI does not operate on that rhythm. Real-time decisioning requires real-time data, and that means the pipeline itself must become a living system. Streaming architectures are replacing batch processing as the default. Continuous integration and continuous delivery, practices that transform software engineering, are finally being applied to data. Every change to a pipeline is versioned, tested in a sandbox, and deployed with the confidence that it will not break production. When it does break, and it will, self-healing mechanisms detect the failure, diagnose the root cause, and correct it before most people in the organization even know something went wrong. This is the difference between a team that spends its weekends fighting fires and a team that spends its weekends innovating. The convergence of DataOps with MLOps and LLMOps represents another critical evolution. For too long, the data team and the machine learning team have operated in separate worlds, handing work over the wall like two kingdoms that share a border but not a language. In an AI-driven organization, that wall must come down. The data pipeline and the model pipeline are not separate concerns. They are two halves of a single life cycle. When a model's performance degrades, the root cause is almost always in the data, a drift in the distribution of features, a change in the source system that nobody documented, a subtle corruption that went unnoticed for weeks. Unified observability across data and models means that when something goes wrong, the team sees the entire chain of causation, from raw ingestion to final prediction, in a single view. This is not a nice-to-have. It is the difference between an AI system that degrades gracefully and one that fails catastrophically. The organizations that are getting this right share a common thread. They have stopped treating data as a byproduct of business operations and started treating it as a product in its own right. A data product is not just a table or a report. It is a packaged, versioned, documented, and guaranteed asset that comes with service-level objectives, lineage tracking, and a clear owner who is accountable for its quality. When a marketing team needs customer segmentation data, they do not file a ticket and wait 2 weeks. They discover the data product in a catalog, understand its fitness for their use case, because the metadata tells them everything they need to know, and consume it through a self-service interface that enforces governance automatically. The data engineer does not become a bottleneck. The data engineer becomes an enabler. The implications of all this extend far beyond the data team. When DataOps is done right, the entire organization changes. Decisions that once took weeks of analysis and alignment now happen in hours because everyone is working from the same trusted source of truth. AI models move from experiment to production in days instead of months because the data is already proven, already governed, already ready. The chief financial officer stops questioning whether the numbers in the board deck match the numbers in the operational dashboard. The chief marketing officer stops wondering why the customer churn model recommended a retention offer to someone who canceled their subscription 6 months ago. Trust, that most fragile and most valuable of organizational assets, is woven into the fabric of how data moves through the enterprise. None of this is easy. The cultural shift required is often harder than the technological one. Data teams that have spent years being rewarded for heroic individual effort must learn to be rewarded for building systems that make heroics unnecessary. Leaders who have built their careers on gut instinct must learn to trust data-driven recommendations, but only after insisting that the data behind those recommendations is provably trustworthy. The tooling landscape is still maturing, the skills gap is still real, and the pressure to deliver AI results tomorrow is immense. But the path forward is becoming clear. Start with observability, because you cannot improve what you cannot see. Automate governance, because speed without control is recklessness. Treat data as a product, because quality cannot be an afterthought. And invest in your people, because even the most autonomous system still needs human judgment to set its direction. The future of DataOps in AI-driven organizations is not about building bigger pipelines. It is about building more intelligent ones. It is about moving from a world where data operations are reactive, manual, and fragile, to a world where they are proactive, automated, and resilient. The organizations that make this shift will not just survive the AI era, they will define it. The ones that do not will find themselves wondering why their models keep failing, why their data teams keep burning out, and why their competitors seem to be operating with a speed and precision that feels almost unfair. The answer will not be found in a better algorithm. It will be found in the quiet, disciplined, deeply unglamorous work of making data ready for the intelligence that depends on it. And that work starts now.